Hello all sentient beings and welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, where we talk all news, comics, and media related to the... In comics news, James Roberts teases the artist working on the Lost Light season finale. We review last year's Schick Hydrobot product placement comic, and is Hasbro finally ready to reboot the Transformers Live Action Movieverse? It's Friday, February 23rd, and this is episode 65 of Transmissions Alt Mode. Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that knows mankind's most important goal, to develop the perfect razor. I'm your host, Charles, aka Big C, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team. Jeremy, aka Yakko.
Hey, how you doing?
And Daryl, the Cybertronian Beast.
Hey, what's up? Let's talk Transformers.
Thank you, Daryl.
I don't know. I don't know anymore, guys.
Daryl doesn't know where he is right now. All right, we're here to talk comics and media. There are some things to discuss coming out of New York Toy Fair that had to do with Transformers media, so we'll stay tuned for that later in the show. But let's start off with some comics news. And first up is more of the web comics from the land of the rising sun in Japan. So Takara's has the habit of releasing these web comics with their releases, their Legends line releases. So these are all the the repackaged versions of the Generations toys that we get here in or in the rest of the world, and Japan has their own as their line similarly, and they do a lot of kind of throwback art to G1 to go along with these Legends figures. And
isn't this Sakamoto doing the art?
I believe it is. I think he does a lot of these these comics, and it does look very much like his art. So we've got these pages have been reproduced on the TFW website, and you can take a look at them. They are still in Japanese. I don't think they've been translated, but someone is working on translating them. I think one of the fans does that at TFW. But you can see a lot of, it takes place at the arc, the G1 cartoon arc. We've got a lot of the G1 characters, Optimus Prime, Wheeljack, Bumblebee, Perceptor,
Battle Chargers.
Battle Chargers. They weren't in the cartoon, but they were in the comic, G1 comic. We've got the Override and is it Override or Overboard? I forget what his name is. And Slugfest, the two Decepticon tape dinosaurs. We've got some Decepticon Target Masters, some Autobot Target Masters.
I see early on you also see Spike and Sparkplug, and I think that's Chip Chase in a wheelchair.
Yeah, you're right.
I can see.
And Carly's there too.
Lots of deep cuts.
We've got the Twin Twist and Top Spin, the Jump Starters, yeah, those guys. Sunstorm. Then we've got all the repaints of Soundwave's tapes that are going to be released as masterpiece figures. Yeah. So it looks like it's we've also got Optimus Prime turns into the combiner mode, the Optimus Maximus guy. We've got him there, and we've even got a Beast Wars Transmetal 2 Megatron cameo. So lots of interesting things. I'm curious to see what's going on in this comic, but yeah. So take a look at that on the link, and let us know what you think. So the next bit of information. So this is something that has come to our attention that we've seen in the last week. 4 previews go up on iTunes for different IDW Transformers comics, all apparently coming out next week, February 28th. So this is, we've got Optimus Prime number 16, the Optimus Prime 2018 annual, the IDW Transformers versus Visionaries number 3, and Lost Light number 15. These are all apparently coming out next week. I gotta
On the
think some of
28th.
those are going to be pushed. I don't think you're going to get 4 Transformers books in a single week. It would have been nice to have one of these books this week so we could review it, but that didn't happen. But yeah, that's a really interesting log jam. But I think something's going to happen. So, yeah, Lost Light and Quattro's asking in the chat, didn't Lost Light 14 come out last week? Yes, it did, or it wasn't. I guess it was 2 weeks ago. But Lost Light has been a month behind, so they're playing catch up. So this Lost Light number 15 is the one that should be out. Should be out February. It should be out in the month of February, and Lost Light 16 should be out in the month of March. So that's why they're doubling up on their releases this month. So that's a lot of comics.
We'll actually know by the time this episode goes out, because we'll find out on Thursday and this comes out. So possibly we'll know and won't be able to correct this.
Yeah, probably. All right. The next bit of news comes from Twitter, and James Roberts has teased who's going to be working on the More Than Meets the Eye / Lost Light season 3 finale. So the season 3 finale is apparently in our sights. It's upcoming. It's already in the planning stages. And James Roberts has said, we've got all these artists. We've got Jack Lawrence, of course, the current main artist on the book, Joanna LaFuente, the current colorist, then Brendan Cahill, Casey Collar, Priscilla Tramontano. Those are all, well-known regular Transformers artists for IDW. Nick Roche, that's not out of left field, but he hasn't done a lot of interior work recently, so that's cool. And then
he had to up those prices, though.
Yeah, that's right. Now he's a famous Spider-Man artist. But now another name in this list, Jeff Senior. So that's interesting. Classic G1 comic artist Jeff Senior is going to be doing some of the Lost Light season 3 finale. So sign me up for that. I'm ready. I'm looking forward to that. And another one after the all that tweet went out, someone asked, "What about and even EJ Sue?" And James Roberts says, "Yes, EJ Sue is also going to be doing some of the art in the season 3 finale." So deep cuts. Another person asked, of course, what about Alex Milne? Because he's one of the cornerstones of More Than Meets the Eye art. And James Roberts said he would love to have him back, but unfortunately he's busy on something huge, capital letters. So it's going to be huge. So that's good
huge
news that Alex has got some stuff he's working on beyond the Unicron Free Comic Book Day comic that's coming out.
Or is it the Unicron
series
stuff? Yeah, maybe
we'll see. And speaking of the Unicron Free Comic Book Day comic that's coming out in just a few months, we do have a preview for that comic. I'm going to put a link to the preview here, but I do want to warn everyone there are some significant spoilers in that Unicron preview. The first 3 pages of the Unicron comic are there. But one thing that I can share with you is that we saw at Toy Fair last week that the Unicron cover has got a new logo. So one of the pictures that the folks at Radio Free Cybertron took, you can see the new logo for the Free Comic Book Day comic. It's quite different from the one we've already seen. So
I think it's also, an improvement. I like this new logo.
Yeah, it's definitely covering up less of the art, so that's always a good thing. So that is all the comics news, and we're going to get into a comic review for this week.
Transmissions wouldn't be what it is today without the awesome support of our listeners. If you'd like to support our shows and enjoy the exclusive benefits that our donors get, please visit transmissionspodcast.com/support.
Now, as I said already, we don't have a new IDW comic this week, so
let's move on to media news.
Not quite. But this is something we have been interested in doing for a while. We talked about this actually last summer when it came out, and it's a little bit. It's I'd say it's definitely a goofier, kind of more just silly comic that we wanted to look at. And this is the promotional comic that was released for Transformers The Last Night, the Schick Hydrobot and the Transformers one shot. So this is a free comic that everyone can get. You can actually you can still download it for free, a free PDF from the IDW website. This is this was meant to be a tie-in, both a tie-in for the upcoming Last Night movie and a blatant advertisement for the Schick the new Schick razor. And it's silly. It's nakedly an advertisement commercial for this Schick razor. But what are Transformers if not naked advertisements for other things? That was the whole genesis of the original cartoon and comic. They were advertising the toys. Now we're advertising a razor. So we just thought it would be fun to review. So I have written the review and we will get into that now. All right. Schick Hydrobot and the Transformers, A New Friend. Written by John Barber. Pencils by Steve Kurth. Inks by Juan Castro and Brian Shearer. Colors by Zach Atkinson, Triona Farrell, Leonardo Ito, Joanna Lafuente, Fran Gamboa, and Goncalo Lopez. Cover by Sarah Peter Drew O'Shea. Letters by Tom B. Long, editor Carlos Guzman, and publisher Ted Adams. So we have one cover by Sarah Peter Drew O'Shea, and it is Optimus Prime, Movieverse Optimus Prime, holding the Schick Hydrobot in his hand and gazing lovingly at him.
Right before he closes his hand and crushes the Hydrobot.
And that's how the story ends. Good night, everyone. Yeah, so let's talk about this story. Somewhere in any town, USA, a man brushes his teeth and gets ready for bed. As he turns the light off in his bathroom and turns in for the night, we see an unremarkable Schick razor lying on the sink. In the quiet darkness of the empty bathroom, the razor begins to move, seemingly all on its own. The razor shifts and bends, transforming into a tiny humanoid robot. The robot leaps out of an open window into the sleeping city. Elsewhere, a group of hostile small robots are breaking into an electronics store looking for hardware components. They attack the unlucky store worker still there, shooting laser blasts and nearly killing him. But before they can do more damage, the diminutive Razorbot comes to the rescue. Despite his size, the tiny robot has the fighting skills to easily get the better of the attackers. The Decepticons run off, and the little warrior follows them. Outside, the Razorbot's pursuit is interrupted by a military transport, a tractor-trailer, and a Chevy Camaro. The Autobots have arrived on the scene, drawn by the alarm the Decepticons triggered attacking the store. Mistaking the Razorbot for a Decepticon, they order him to stop. But the Razorbot doesn't know them and isn't going to let himself be captured. The Autobots are too big and slow to catch the little robot, and he easily escapes. Bumblebee still can't speak, but we get his internal monologue that tells us he thinks they might be wrong about the tiny bot. Maybe he could be a friend rather than an enemy, but they still need to track him down to figure that out. Luckily, the robot left some lubricant of some kind at the scene, and Hound has the olfactory sensors to track it down. The Autobots transform and roll out, with Hound leading the way. They trace the liquid back to a Schick research lab. Using their vehicle modes and holographic avatars, they fool the security guard at the gate into letting them in. Inside the lab, they find a Schick research scientist, Dr. Hiroshi Benson, working late to develop the perfect razor, mankind's most important goal. The Autobots are surprised to see Dr. Benson not freak out at being visited late at night by 3 giant living robots. They ask him about his research, and Dr. Benson gladly tells them about his work. 6 months ago, Dr. Benson developed a synthetic chemical compound he called H-Boostium, which would have the perfect lubrication properties for a close shave. As he was working with the delicate, unstable chemical in his lab, he accidentally mishandled it, causing an explosion. He was about to be crushed by falling debris from the explosion when a tiny robot saved him. The H-Boostium had combined with a Schick razor to become something more, the Schick Hydrobot. Before Dr. Benson could thank this tiny miracle, he was gone. After Dr. Benson's story is finished, Optimus Prime theorizes that the H-Boostium was actually some more of the Transformium that was not recovered from the human-created Transformers as seen in the movie Age of Extinction. And this is why the Hydrobot became sentient. Now that they know the origins of the Hydrobot, they realize they misjudged him. But there's no time for reflection on past mistakes, as suddenly Megatron and the Decepticons break into the lab and attack. Megatron is flanked by Barricade and Onslaught, and also by the 3 mini Genericons who attacked the electronics store earlier. Onslaught steps forward to press the attack and is tripped up to fall flat on his rear bumper. The Hydrobot is back and ready to help the Autobots defend the lab against the attack. He was so small that Onslaught didn't notice him between his feet. The battle is joined. The Autobots and the Hydrobot team up to fight the Decepticons. As the battle rages across the lab, Dr. Benson tries to help the Hydrobot and the Autobots by telling them to use his new energy field razor to fight the Decepticons. But Megatron overhears and grabs the human to use as a bargaining chip. Optimus isn't having any of it and punches Megatron anyway. Dr. Benson drops the control handset for the energy razor, and Bumblebee catches it. At the same moment, the Hydrobot lands on the handset and presses the activation button. The energy field razor unleashes a powerful blast of electricity to shock all the Decepticons. Megatron knows he's outmatched and orders a hasty G1-style retreat. After the Decepticons have fled, Optimus Prime apologizes to the Hydrobot for misjudging him. Dr. Benson also wants to thank the Hydrobot for saving his life. But the Hydrobot has a new mission. He has to get home before sunrise, when his human will wake up and need to get ready for work. The Autobots roll out to give him a ride back to his home so he can get back into the bathroom and into Razor mode before it's time to start the day with a morning shave. The beginning? And that is the first adventure of the Schick Hydrobot in the Transformers movie universe. One thing I did want to mention on the art team is that Steve Kurth and Juan Castro and Brian Shearer are the same team that did the pencils and inks for Spotlight Orion Pax. So that's interesting that they came back for this book. I mean, Brian Shearer has been around for a while, but Steve Kurth and Juan Castro working on this book. So, Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. What did you think of this little story?
It was fun. I thought the art was pretty good. I mean, it does suffer at times for having so many different colorists, but the art itself was consistent, and you could tell what was going on, unlike the actual movies. I like this Optimus. He actually apologized, and I mean, this is a fun story, and I could, Barber got his in with IDWs doing the movie tie-in comics originally, and since Michael Bay won't allow tie-in comics anymore, this was a neat thing where it's completely separate from the movies but connected, and I thought it was just fun. For the price, you can't beat it.
Yep. I mean, the other, of course, me getting obsessed with the continuity. There's no way this takes place in any kind of continuity for the movies, because after Age of Extinction, Optimus Prime is out in space, and Megatron was still Galvatron. They never told us how Galvatron turned back into Megatron, and Megatron's troops were all captured by the CIA, except for Barricade. So I guess John Barber will have to tell us, how this fits into the movie universe. Like, when did Optimus Prime come back before the last night to
maybe
to
it
hang
happened
out?
some point in the middle of Age of Extinction.
Maybe.
Like, you don't know how much time has passed before that last scene where he flew off into space.
Sure.
I don't know.
I'm not going to press any further. So, Daryl, what are your thoughts on the Schick Hydrobot?
Well, that was a thing. I'm glad that they gave the Hydrobot some kind of fiction, just because he was a really big part of the advertising campaign around the last night, and to the point that I actually expected to see him in the movie at some point.
Yeah, I mean, we actually got free ones at TFCon.
Yeah,
when exactly. I do shave, that is my razor.
There you go. So, yeah, I'm happy that this book exists because there was a lot of money put behind this campaign, and this is a fun way to advertise your product to the audience that goes to see Transformers movies. That being said, it was a really simple story. There's not a lot of twists and turns. It's advertised as a one shot, so you can't expect it to continue on anywhere. But the art's decent, and the coloring, I'm looking at it from a shitty printout, so I'm not really going to comment on the coloring. I'm going to assume what Jeremy said stands, and that the coloring it changes from colorist to colorist, but it's all in all pretty good.
I think it's fairly consistent, but you can, if you have multiple colorists, you can't help but
exactly.
Everyone has their own little style.
I'm pretty sure that it's supposed to be Peter Cullen as the Hollow Avatar in the page where they have they're trying to sneak into the Schick labs. So it's a guy with a mustache, so I'm sure they're probably trying to be Peter Cullen there, but
it wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, it's decent. But going through it, I'm trying to think, if this wasn't about a Schick Hydrobot and this was just a Transformers comic based in the movieverse, would I want to read it? And just looking at the characters and the way they're drawn in the book, I'm not a movie guy. Even in a comic sense, I don't think I could get into the characters from the movieverse in any kind of comic fiction.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me as pretty just pretty silly, but it reminds me of the like the one joke from The Simpsons where they talked about like the Chocotastic Fun Time Hour or something like that. It's like, even more blatant than usual as an advertisement. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still fun, but and John Barber, of course, he approaches it with with trying to make an interesting story about and inserting a lot of humor in there, with the whole mankind's ultimate goal is to find the perfect shave or the perfect razor.
And at least they did go with the people doing the actual Transformers comics, and you got real comic people on there rather than like just some advertising team putting something together.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's it's definitely not. So I mean, I'm glad they released this as a free digital comic, because this is not something I would pay money for.
No, and it could be worse.
Well, this is not the KFC Green Lantern crossover. I mean, it's not on that level, but it is. Mm-hmm. It's not bad. It's still good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is the Schick Hydrobot Transformers crossover. So we've got pretty soon we'll have the Schick cinematic universe. All right, let's move on to some media news.
All right. This week in media news, we've got a few topics here. The first one is the Philippines wants to thank Chevrolet, or is it Chevrolet is thanking the Bumblebee movie? Either way, the Philippines now has a lot more established ground with Chevrolet in their country because of the Bumblebee movie and Bumblebee himself in the Transformers movies, because of people wanting to get merchandise from the movies and have the cars. Apparently, Chevrolet was not a big car brand in the Philippines prior to the Michael Bay live action movies, and having that Bumblebee Camaro as merchandise was something that they needed to do to get into the Philippines, and they did that. So good for you, Philippines. I'm glad that the Bumblebee movie, or the Bumblebee from the live action movies, has helped you get more Chevrolet stuff. And I know we have some listeners in the Philippines, and if I've butchered that story, you let me know. I'm sure I did. Yep. We got a new poster for Power of the Primes. Oh boy. This one features Optimus Primal, and this one, as a reminder, will be voiced by Ron Perlman, the great Optimus Primal voice actor, Ron Perlman. It's just showing
you're
that
pronouncing Gary Chalk wrong.
Right. So yes, it's a kind of a first look at what Optimus Primal will look like. No big surprise. He kind of looks like the way he did in Beast Wars. Yeah.
But he will not be animated as well as he did back in 1996 in Beast Wars.
Exactly. So we've got some some Toy Fair stuff to talk about here. Okay, first up, the big news that came out of Toy Fair was something that got me real excited. The Transformers live action movie series, the Bayverse, as they're called, is over. And they mentioned it in a panel of some kind, or a kind of
it's not quite over.
Well, the Bumblebee movie is still going to be it's still coming out. It's coming out in December, and was gonna be originally it was gonna be like this prequel to the Bayverse.
It still is kind of. It's set in the 80s.
It's set in the 80s, but now it's being kind of turned into this. It was then going to be a soft reboot, and I think they've just said, screw it, we're just going to stop it after the Bumblebee movie.
No, the wording that the CEO of Hasbro said was reset on the live action movies. That's all he said.
But they're not but from what I understood is that the Bumblebee movie is not included in that reset. So the Bumblebee movie is still part of the Bayverse, whereas before it was going to be a prequel, and then it was just going to be this soft reboot, and now they're just saying screw it, and we're stopping it after Bumblebee movie.
They're not saying that. They have not said screw it, we're going to stop. We are not bleeding cool. We actually are reporting what they actually said. So that they said they are going to do a reset, and they haven't said anything more.
A reset.
There is a Transformers movie. Well, okay, so their movie slate that they announced was Bumblebee this December, G.I. Joe in 2020, Micronauts in 2020, Dungeons and Dragons in 2021, and a Paramount Hasbro film event in 2021.
Right.
So they don't have any other Transformer movies on the schedule, but as much as we would like the Bayverse to be dead, they have not said that.
Isn't reset another word for reboot?
Yeah, and I would like to think that it's a soft reboot, or at the least. But I'm just saying we're not going to be putting words into their mouth that they have not said.
I'm not believing anything's finalized until I see a trailer for the next Transformers movie that says it's not a Michael Bay film,
right?
And it's something completely different. I mean, I'm holding out hope that this does turn out to be a reboot, and kind of we get maybe some redesigns of the characters and new directors who are interested in telling Transformers stories. But we'll see.
Yeah. Do you want to jump to what John Warden actually said when asked about it at Toy Fair?
Go ahead.
Because we have this clip. This is from the TFU Info News and Views podcast. He, and among other podcasts, recorded their interview with the Hasbro marketing and brand team. And I clipped out this one bit where this is where John Warden was misquoted by Bleeding Cool, kind of trying to confirm that the Bayverse is dead, and that is not what he said at all. So here's the clip.
Has the recent announcement about the changes with the movie plans changed the toy line plans for you guys at all? The cancellation of the series, I guess.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question is the recent, I guess, the points that Brian made about the reboot of the film franchise coming off of Bumblebee. For sure. I think our team is always working closely with Paramount, all of our story writers, whether it's been Machinima, on the next chapter, and then the next product line associated with that. No decision to move something like a film is made independently from a film partner. So we're always part of those conversations to say what's next, what's best, and when should we deliver the next best thing. Our attention right now is focused on Bumblebee. I think the film has come along great. We've seen a lot of the footage, the cuts, the takes. The toy line looks fantastic. I think there's a lot of directions we could take post that. We have a lot of toy concepts we're working on. Nothing stops us. I think you guys saw it downstairs, right? We got Cyberverse cranking. That's coming out soon. Studio series. We have the Bumblebee film line, Generations new trilogy announced. But yeah, any shift, we have to deal with it and either pause or just charge head on. This is one where we're going to collectively pause, solve for what the next best story is, and then put a line around that. But in no way does it distract us.
It sounded like in his comments that Hasbro will have a little more creative control over some of the. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, awesome.
For you guys to be more involved.
Good. Yeah, I think the Bumblebee film is going to be. I think hopefully you all go this Christmas, and I think show what we can do collectively with Paramount and Travis Knight and the team over there.
All right, so that was the comments they made on that. So, I mean, clearly, nothing has been decided post Bumblebee, is what I'm reading from it.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping it's done.
Yeah, I mean, as am I.
Mm-hmm. I guess, obviously, it sounds like they're waiting to see if Bumblebee's a success, and then they'll just kind of, shove some movies in afterwards.
If Bumblebee is a success, why would you want to not capitalize on that and then make a soft reboot of the whole thing? If it's horrible, then nuke the whole thing. But from everything that everyone's saying is they're optimistic about Bumblebee.
Well, Bumblebee in and of itself could be a soft reboot.
Right.
So they could start a whole new franchise off of Bumblebee.
Bumblebee could actually talk, and then we won't have to worry about him not talking in future movies.
Oh, Charles, you're so innocent.
Don't dash my hopes. I'm still holding out hope for talking Bumblebee.
It's me, Bumblebee Flashpoint.
Well, I guess we'll find out a little bit more closer to the release of Bumblebee movie. But and I think you covered the last bit of the news that I was going to mention about the next slate of movies, unless we want to dive into anything else there.
I'm just surprised to see G.I. Joe on there.
G.I. Joe is back. My theory is that going into these movies is that they will pepper Transformers into all of these movies, and that the Paramount Hasbro event film will be everybody. And it will be kind of a Revolution style, including the Transformers. So you will get to see somebody in each one of these damn films.
I'm interested to see how they would tie that in with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's interesting because Dungeons and Dragons kind of holds the same spot as I would say Visionaries does.
Yeah.
It's kind of a magical, area. But yeah, you could definitely put an event film together with all three of these franchises and throw Transformers in there too. But we'll see. Got nothing to do else but wait. Yeah. So that's it for media news.
All right. Well, let's move on to some convention news.
All right. We have a couple of things here in convention news. The first one, Retcon, which we talked about a lot last year, is going to be back again. And they have announced that Simon Furman is going to be writing their convention comic. And they're really excited about that. And then also Ed Peary is going to be doing the artwork and the inking. He's a pretty well-known artist that's done stuff for Auto Assembly in the past. I think this says he's assisted on Regeneration 1, More Than Meets the Eye, Lost Light, and Sins of the Wreckers, among others. And then Winston Chan is going to provide the colors, and you might not know him, but he is a Donatreon for our podcast. So, that we think that's really awesome. And lettering is going to be done by Nate Phoenix, who did the lettering last year. So this looks like they're going to have a pretty great convention comic. Hopefully we'll be able to see it. Everyone that attends the convention is going to get a free copy. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. The next thing we have in convention news is for TF Nation. They've announced that Mike Collins is going to be attending. Mike Collins was the artist on parts 3 and 4 of Man of Iron, and also he was the artist on the Ladybird books. So it's a pretty early G1 comic stuff, and if you listen to the show, Man of Iron is probably one of Yoshi's favorite G1 stories. So that's a pretty cool get. I don't know if I've ever heard of him being at other conventions. So that is everything for convention news this week.
As if we didn't need another reason to be jealous of TF Nation.
Right.
I know, right?
Yeah, but that's cool. Yeah. Maybe Yoshi will get over there now.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? That might be the one thing that makes him be like, all right, I've got the ticket. I'm going.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. And let us know what you think of the future of the Transformers Bayverse. So,
do you want it to end? Do you want it to reboot?
I saw a petition today asking for people to sign so that they will not end the Bayverse. And it was getting a lot of negative comments.
I've seen a couple of people in some of the Facebook groups, Transformer groups, like trying to expound on the virtues of these movies. And people are like, dude, you can have your own opinion, but the movies weren't that good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is, okay, I don't want to get, I don't want to start. I mean, I'll just say that
it is someone's G1.
Yeah, that's true. Eric Crownover, we love you. We hate those movies, but we love you as a fan. We're glad it brought you into the fold. But continuity is a very loose word to use for those movies. There's 5 movies. They're by the same director. They have no continuity. I mean, it's not. I mean, the following movies just don't relate to the previous. I mean, we talked about it in our last night review how much was thrown away from Age of Extinction and wasn't followed up on in the last night, and that's the same for every movie. So, I mean, they don't care about like internal consistency of throughout the series. Why should we?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I shouldn't end on a negative note, but I did.
Do you disagree with Charles? Let us know in feedback.
All right. That's it. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Later.
Thanks for listening to Transmissions. Remember, you can help support the show by donating to us directly via Patreon or PayPal. Once you become a donor, you will receive access to donor-only goodies, like donor-only contests, listening to us record Transmissions live, and getting Transmissions swag at 20% off. You can find links for this at transmissionspodcast.com/support. Subscribing to us on Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play is also a great way to support us here at Transmissions. Every subscription we get helps us get better noticed on those services. Leaving us a comment and 5-star review doesn't hurt either. Be sure to come chat with us on Discord. You will find a link for Discord at transmissionspodcast.com/discord. And of course, you can always send us an email at feedback@transmissionspodcast.com. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again next week.